I am struck by Paul's letter, in part because I think we want to remember the time in which he wrote it, the time in which how things were for Christianity, and that he's choosing to tell them where their focus needs to be. And it's equally as true for us today, but there's pros and cons to where we sit today versus where they sat then, right? In terms of what we know about what goes on in the world, our ability to know things almost instantaneously, which is beautiful and profound in some ways, but also allows us to see a lot more of what is not good and just, the kinds of things that Paul is talking about. And as I've been saying for months now, what we look for is what we will see. What we will see. And so what Paul says right off the bat is, have no anxiety at all. I don't know about you, but that's not working for me. Right? Thanks, Paul. But again, in Paul's time, you literally could be killed for simply doing what we're doing right now. And Paul sat profoundly in that space, and indeed pays for it with his life, which makes it all the more profound what he's saying about it. He ends up giving his life for this thing, and he's saying to everyone else as he's writing this letter, hey, have no anxiety at all. And there's a part of you that has to go, oh, I wish I could, but then you see him there, and you experience what he's saying as you keep reading this letter. Look, be a person of prayer, be a person of gratitude. And then he goes through that list. Whatever is lovely, whatever is just, whatever is honorable, that's where your focus has to be. Because if you put your focus somewhere else, then there your focus will be. It's kind of like a spirituality of scarcity versus a spirituality of abundance. The reality that we live in is that reality, but what are we focused on? And I think one of the things is we're often focused on what we don't have. And that is not, in and of itself, a terrible thing. There may be things that you want for your home to be more complete. You may want things for your children to make their experience more complete. So I'm saying there's nothing wrong with the initial thing of, I really want this to accomplish that. That's not the problem. The problem is when our focus always goes there, then our focus is the scarcity. When you woke up this morning, did you say, I got enough sleep, that was great? Right? Most of us don't. Most of us go, oh, man, I knew I should have gone to bed sooner, right? If you're like me, at 9 o'clock, you're like, I could just pass out right now. But you're like, I can't go to bed at 9. And then somewhere around 10:45, you're like, I could stay up all night. The second wind kind of hits you. But then when 5:30 or 6 rolls around, the scarcity, it starts right from the beginning. I didn't get enough sleep. I don't have enough time to get ready. I spent too much time in traffic. I didn't get to my work right away because someone spun me in the other direction. Scarcity, scarcity. But if we spend the time in gratitude, because that's what gratitude does, it reverses the focus. Rather than focus on what I don't have, it becomes about what I've been blessed with. And not just things, but people. That we begin to say, I am blessed. I am blessed. And when the focus is there, that's what Paul's saying. You've got to look at whatever's honorable, whatever's lovely, whatever's beautiful. Your focus has to be there because there's a lot out there that ain't that, but that you don't control that anyway. And that plays off interesting, right? The first reading, the psalm and the gospel are all about a vineyard. I guess I envisioned the early church fathers going, well, Paul never used vineyard, so we're going to have to find something else to go in here. Oh, we'll use this one. But I think the reason they did is precisely, we can get stuck in the fruitfulness stage. And in reality, in both those readings you heard, who created the vineyard? Who bought it, dug it, put the wine press in it? The owner, not the workers. And so we always want to posit back where our role is in this thing. I had something happen this week that has to do with my mission projects that it's not bad, but things are going to be different. And I had to laugh. I was texting my best friend, Father Joe Krupp, this morning. It's a long story, but we have this inside joke about this psalm. When he was at a parish that I used to help at, there's an arrangement of this that was just funny to us. It's a long story, but it ended up with this woman singing, "The vineyard of the Lord is the house of Israel." And I can never look at that line and not hear her in my head. So at 6 this morning, I text him from the lectionary with that line underword, and I said, "Don't make me sing it." And he said, "I can't believe you remember that." And I said, "I give it." Anyway, he said, "How you doing?" We were just checking in. And I was sharing with him a little bit of anxiety I have about something that's changing. And he said, "Brother, the Lord has led you to this point. There's no way he's going to abandon you now." And then he said, "I know you know that, but sometimes it helps to hear it." And I just texted back, "You know what's funny? I have completely forgotten that all week. I'm so focused on what I need to do to fix it or, make it work or take the anxiety away that I forgot to let God be God. And I forgot to say that the whole reason I get to do what I do in any of my ministry is not my work. I didn't plant the vineyard. I'm in the vineyard precisely because God had said, 'I want you in here.' And so when anxiety comes, when difficulty comes, when trouble comes our way, I hope that we start to practice the instinct to be grateful. I sure didn't this week. Let me just share that with you. That when this little change came my way, I immediately went into fix-it mode, anxiety mode, and I got this. And God's like, "You're 53. When will you ever listen to me?" But in reality, God just keeps pouring mercy and grace at the situation. And even though that discussion that made this change happened on Tuesday, God said, "That's okay. I got your best friend. He'll slap you back in the right direction Sunday morning. We'll just wait 5 days for you to think about it." But I hope as we string enough of these experiences together, we start to really trust God. We start to really trust him. I've told this story before, right? But both university, UC Berkeley and Harvard have studied gratitude. Right? And they've looked at, Berkeley in particular did this one with college students, where those that were getting counseling services, they created 3 groups. One was, in addition to counseling, write a letter of gratitude every week. Second group was to, in addition to counseling, journal about the negative experiences in your life. And the third group was nothing, the control group, just get the counseling. No surprise that it's the first group that not just for a few weeks, but for many weeks later, expressed a feeling of better mental health. By the way, they didn't even ask them to send those letters. It wasn't in the sending of the letter, but it was in the writing of the letter. And you could hear St. Paul going, "Duh, I said this 2,000 years ago. Whatever's beautiful, whatever's lovely, whatever's just, whatever's honorable, call it to mind. Be a person of prayer, of thanksgiving, and petition. Tell God what you need. And then you'll have the peace of God within you." Well, that's a challenge. But I said, that's been scientifically studied to know that that's true. And then we come to this Eucharist. The word Eucharistia in Greek means thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. That the very gift that God gives to us in this celebration is itself thanksgiving. So as we prepare to begin this week in earnest, aware of all the things that need to be done, aware of all the things that we don't have or wish that we had today to make it better or more full, we hear God say, be grateful, be aware. Where is your focus? So as we come today for the Eucharist, may our focus be right there, on that host, on the presence of Christ that belongs to us all. May God be praised.